All right, now I've helped dozens of gyms get their churn rate as low as 1% a month. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing the 3 biggest reasons why members are probably leaving your gym, as well as such, the 3 biggest tips, the biggest things you can implement into your gym today to massively reduce your members churning. So let's actually get into it. And the first one is, surprise, surprise, it's members not actually showing up to your gym. Now, this is pretty obvious, but I'm going to get into some interesting points, so let's discuss that now. First of all, whenever you take on a new client, you want to make sure that they do 20 workouts in 60 days. The reason for this is that whenever a new client joins your gym, or really whenever a new client joins any business, there's always a bit of a honeymoon period, a bit like a relationship, if you will. But during that period, it's really, this period being obviously the first 2 months that a client is with your business, this is really going to determine whether or not a client leaves after month 3 or month 9, because if they're actually seeing value and they're seeing why they're actually, spending this money at your gym within the first 2 months, and the best way you can get a client to see the value of your service or the product or the value of your product, it's fairly obvious. Get them to come into your gym, get them to experience it for themselves and they can see the value. If they see the value consistently for the first 2 months, they're much, much, much more likely to go on to become long-term clients. Even if after the first 2 months, they don't show up as regularly, they're, statistically speaking at least, still going to stay with your gym for a lot longer, as opposed to someone that comes into your gym, buys a membership, a class package, whatever it might be, barely uses it and just basically leaves your gym. But how do you actually encourage this and make sure this happens in your gym? Well, what I would do is whenever someone goes 1 week without essentially showing up, you want to send them a reminder of some sort. This could literally be, something as simple as like an SMS, simply saying, hey, I've noticed you haven't been in the club this week. Just wanted to make sure all's good with you. Let me know if we can help with anything regarding the nutrition plan, any exercises, booking in for a class, whatever it might be. Always reach out and try and support your clients. And on top of this, you can even automate it with something like an AI chatbot that every now and then, whenever a client, for example, goes 1 week without showing up, you can automatically reach out, have a conversation with your client, get them back into the gym, and it's a really great way to improve things. But the next thing you can do to make sure that members keep coming into your gym is with new and exciting fitness offerings, essentially. And a bit like how we talked earlier, whenever a new client joins your gym, in this instance, there's a bit of a honeymoon period. If you're continuously bringing out new, basically, perks or new activities about your gym, that sort of new factor, that feel-good feeling, is going to continue. And if it continues, a client is going to be way more likely to stay with your gym. So I'll actually give you a couple examples here. So if, for instance, you've got, new equipment, make sure that all of your clients are being made aware of all the investments you're, making in your gym. If you're improving your locker rooms, send out an email, send out an SMS, send out both, if you will, being, hey members, just wanted to let you know we've made this update to the gym. Hopefully this makes your experience a hell of a lot better. If there's anything else we can do, feel free to drop us a suggestion, something like that. Alternatively, if for instance you're more of a classes gym, every now and then bring in a new class. You could say, hey everyone, for a limited time only, say you're a, mainly personal training gym, something of that nature. You could go for, limited time only. We're only doing it for the month of November. We are offering CrossFit classes. Come and enjoy CrossFit, join the community, blah, blah, blah. If you're constantly bringing out these new offerings, whether it be equipment, whether it be activities that can actually do at your gym, it's going to get people a bit excited and it's going to give them yet another reason to actually come into your gym. But let's get into the second reason why a lot of people leave your gym, and that is community, or in many instances, a lack thereof. Now, community is a bit of an interesting one, because if you go to, and I've experienced this for myself, I've talked to hundreds of gym owners at this point. If you go to any gym owner and say, hey, does your gym have a good community? It's a bit like going to any gym owner and saying, hey, is your gym clean? They're all going to say yes, right? And that's not to say that those gyms don't have great communities. It's just to say that a lot of gym owners believe that they have good gym community or good communities within their gym. In many instances, that's true, but there's always room for improvement in everything in business, and you should approach the community within your gym as no different. Now, how do you actually build this community? How do you foster it? I'm going to give you a few practical tips right now. So first of all, something you absolutely need to have is with the clients of your gym, so just the clients, not everyone else, you want to have a private Facebook group just for your clients. Now, you're probably thinking, I already do that. Stick around because I'm going to show you some additional things to this. Now, the only way that a Facebook group is actually going to make a difference to your churn rate, which is at the end of the day, we want to make sure that as few clients as possible are churning from our gym in this instance, right? But how do we actually get a Facebook group to do that? Well, first of all, it's quite simple. You need active engagement. And when I see active engagement, you need dozens and dozens of your members or clients messaging, interacting, posting, sharing comments, whatever that might be in that Facebook group every single week. And you need to ask yourself, if you open your, if say, for example, you already have a Facebook group for all your clients, if you open that and there's not 50 new messages from yourself, your clients, all chatting with one another every single day, then your Facebook group is being wasted and you're losing that potential. And I'm going to show you some tips on how you can actually cultivate that a bit. And the main one is content. Now, if I was to ask you, do you have an Instagram page for your gym and do you post content for that page? 99.99% of people watching this are going to say yes, right? Obviously. But on top of that, ask yourself this. Do you have a private, Facebook group for your gym as clients? If you do, great. If you don't, obviously that's a good first step. But on top of that, do you post designated specific content for your clients in that Facebook group? For instance, if you are posting on your normal Instagram page, you might just do like a tour of your gym or something like that, right? But that same sort of content isn't going to help your active clients. They know what your gym looks like. They know, maybe what sort of events you put on and stuff like that. They already know the perks of your gym because they're a part of your gym, right? So as such, you want to be posting content in this Facebook group that helps your existing clients even more than they already receive from your existing services. For example, it could be some nutrition tips. It could be, hey community, it's Oliver from Oliver's Gym here. Summer's coming up and I want to show everyone some great recipes that I created that are high protein or low carb or whatever it might be, right? And by providing your clients this extra content, essentially what you want to do is you want to say, let me know what you think, guys. Comment down below. You'll get all your clients commenting. Oh, I really like this recipe. Oh, that point you brought up about this was really interesting. And you're essentially fostering that engagement. And it won't be instant. You want to do around three of these posts a week, by the way. If you're wondering, that's how I'd structure it. It won't be instant, but over a few months, you'll really cultivate a thriving community within that. And it will do wonders when it comes to your actual retention and the churn rate of your members, because now when you've got that community, people will bump into each other. Oh, I saw you on the Facebook group, yada, yada, yada. And ultimately it will make people not want to leave your gym because all of a sudden when they're thinking, oh, do I want to leave this gym? They're thinking, oh, I don't want to leave though because I like bumping into Stacy on Sunday exercise class and blah, 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 whatever it might be, right? Another really good strategy you can use to foster that community is do things like events, or even, if you're a slightly more upmarket gym, things like masterclasses, which by the way can be really, really effective ways to increase your revenue because they're from existing customers, right? But strictly speaking, on the events side of things, I remember one of my clients one time was a female-only gym, and every Saturday morning they'd essentially get, some like babysitters to come around, and it was a sort of thing where it was like, hey, you can come in at 10 o'clock, drop your kids off, they'll be looked after, come do this super fun spin class or whatever it was. And then there was even coffee afterwards, and they do this every fortnight or something like that. And that is an incredible community event and activity that people won't ever want to miss out on, especially with a really targeted niche like that. And that can do wonders when it comes to improving your overall retention because, say if the first thought that pops in someone's head is, maybe I haven't been going enough to this gym, maybe I should cancel. The second thought that's going to pop into their head, if it's not already the community, it's going to be, I don't want to miss the upcoming event that they've got coming up or whatever it is. And if you can, change these events as well, have a little bit of variety, it's going to get people excited, it's going to keep them excited, and that's another really great tip. And the final tip that I can give you is all about your first contact with the actual customer. Now, how a client enters a business will determine how they stay in a business. In other words, if a client comes into a business, for example, expecting the moon only to be delivered something very, very short off that, they're going to churn really quickly. And you can do this with your own gym. If you have a problem where clients are coming into your business but churning really quickly, one of the most likely reasons for that is that they were expecting something that was completely different from what they were essentially sold. Now, that's the first tip. Obviously, make sure line up expectations, because it's always better to undersell what you could perform and then over deliver, because that will ultimately what will produce the happiest clients you will ever find. But even, for example, when you sign a new client, giving them a call or leaving them a voicemail just saying, hi Beth, I'm so glad you signed up to the gym, just wanted to leave you a voicemail, can't wait to see you next week. Something like that will go a really long way to making them feel welcomed, making them feel included. And the quicker you can, again, when you follow these steps, when you foster that community in your gym, the quicker you can get new people joining your gym to integrate themselves into that community, to feel welcome, the overall better results that person will get, or the quicker results as well, and that will do wonders for your retention long term. So I hope you found value of this, and if you did, link in the description, book a call with me, and we'll see what I can do for your gym when it comes to its retention or even growing it. But thanks very much for watching, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.